This episode is brought to you by Control T. Press it once a day to keep the racism away. This is Hot Drop, where we bring you premier PUBG analysis and unseasonably warm drops. Today I have a very special guest on the show. He's a longtime friend of mine and brand new to PUBG. In fact, he's brand new to PC gaming. I wanted to interview him to get some perspective on what PUBG is like for someone who has never played this type of game before. The fact that PUBG is his first foray into PC gaming makes his perspective even more interesting, and I hope you think so too. So without any further ado, please welcome Cody, a.k.a. Lord Beardface. I'm Daniel, your host.
Let's get into it.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
Nailed it. Okay, let's kick it off.
All right, let's do this, man.
So, Cody, welcome to the show, and thanks for taking the time to sit down with me.
Absolutely. It gives me something to do between games, and also I get to listen to myself next time I watch the video.
Perfect. Win-win all around. So we've known each other for a very long time. I think it was actually 9th grade global studies class, circa 2004.
Yep, when you hated me.
I hated you. But somewhere along the way, we worked things out, and it's blossomed into a beautiful friendship.
That was a long time. Yeah.
And I'm glad you're here with me today, 13 years later.
Many, many memories.
So jumping into the interview questions, I wanted to talk to you, first of all, because you have very little experience playing PUBG, first of all, but even more on top of that, you have very little experience playing video games in general on the PC.
This is like almost zero experience as an adult.
Right. So I wanted to ask you just a very brief history. What were some of the games you grew up playing, or did you even grow up playing games? And if so, what type of games did you like?
Yeah, so when I was a kid, I had a Sega. Sega was my first console that I ever had, and I played a lot of Desert Strike and Jungle Strike with my dad, which were really, really cool games. If you remember any of those, they were like the top-down shooters where you would fly around in a helicopter and do really cool things like that. And we played a lot of the early edition Madden games. Sonic was a big one that I had played that I'd probably spent way too many hours playing as a kid. When I was maybe 9 or so, my mom got me an N64. That was the first console that I personally owned that was nobody else's. And I spent so many hours playing Gauntlet Legends that I would get blisters on my hands from the joystick. And that was like the greatest experience ever. I have so many fond memories of that.
That N64 joystick, so good until it breaks, and then
until it gets
useless.
wobbly, and then it's garbage, and you can't do anything about it.
Worst design
you say that you can play with the D-pad, but you cannot play with the D-pad.
No, you can't. You just can't.
No. Late high school, I got a secondhand original Xbox, and that's where I played the first. It was either Medal of Honor or Call of Duty, and I played that for a while. And it's weird because you and I have had the conversation of how I get motion sick when I play first-person shooter games. But back then, it didn't seem to matter, and I'm not exactly sure why that happened at some point. But I played that game a lot. I was really into like NCAA football and Madden and those games, and I still am. I play those games every year that they come out. And then I got a Xbox 360 when I went to college, and by that time, I had already kind of been into a couple of genres, mostly third-person action-adventure games. Those were my jam and still are my jam. And that was because when we were in high school, you and I played Assassin's Creed for the first time on your laptop.
Right. Yep. With a 360 controller.
With the 360 controller.
That was the glory days. I still can't believe that laptop ran that game.
That was magnificent.
That was great.
We would sit on that bed and play that game for hours and hours and hours.
Because there was nothing like it at the time. There was nothing that had that free running, climb up anything you want mechanic. Like, it was all new to me, and that's what made it so cool.
It was all about the physics and parkour and climbing and jumping off of ledges and stabbing people midair and things like that. And I remember we would just be like, all right, we're cutting bitches today. That's what we're doing. We're going in, we're doing this. And like 5 hours would pass. And then I was hooked. So I bought every edition of that game since it came out, including like the Krabby Chronicles
Wow, I had no
and
idea.
all that stuff. Yeah, no, I love that franchise. I love everything about it, even through its rough years, which it got really rough there for a while.
A lot of open world games. I'm sensing a theme. Third person, open world, not a lot of shooters or shooting happening,
Nope.
but
Nope.
a
So I
lot
did
of
play the
like,
Uncharted series, and that was like the closest I had ever
yes,
gotten to like an actual shooter.
yeah, that's a great
Um,
series.
and I'm like a completionist when I play open world games. Like I have to get 100% on everything.
Yeah, I'm the
And
same way. It's
so
such a time
I,
suck.
yeah, it really is. But like you feel so complete when you're done.
You do,
You're
yep.
like, all
And
right,
then,
I've literally done everything.
yep. And then when you grow out of the game and you're like thinking back, it's like, why did I spend so much time trying to collect all the flags? That was
Yep.
completely pointless. I could have been playing better games.
Yep.
Yeah, so PC games were never really on your radar at all then. Like you were just completely console all the
Yeah.
time.
The
Like you never had a
the
PC
ex-
growing up. You never really built one or did anything like that.
no. So we had so like to distinguish between PC and like a desktop computer, just for the sake of having a computer in your home. Um, I did have a computer so I could do like classwork and stuff, but it was mostly like my dad's computer and he did his work on it. And the only two games I ever played was Roller Coaster Tycoon
Ah, the classic.
and Command and Conquer Red Alert 2, and that was it. And I spent a lot of my preteen years playing Red Alert 2 with my neighbors, and then that was the only gaming experience I'd ever had on a PC.
Gotcha.
Not
Gotcha.
not counting our Assassin's Creed time, but that
Right.
doesn't really count.
Right. So you never really used like a keyboard and a mouse to control a character
Never,
in a shooter game or like even a third person type of game.
never, and that was the biggest adjustment jumping into this.
Yeah. Well, let's back up a little bit. So how did you hear about Player Unknown's Battlegrounds?
I mean, you told me about it, but I'm on IGN all the time, so I had seen PUBG, but I never paid attention to it because sometimes IGN covers things that are just like obscure and you don't care. And so
Right.
it was always the same promo picture too, is where the guy's standing there with the level 3 helmet on and the shirt and tie, and there's like the explosion behind him. And so it was that picture every single time and nothing else. So I never gave it a second thought.
hmm
Um, and then when you told me about it, I watched the first like 2 or 3 episodes that you had posted. I was like, actually, this seems really cool. Like I don't know why I haven't heard of this before, but it was still small at the time. Like you were still, I think, at like 300,000 players.
When you first saw this game on IGN and then you heard about my podcast and you saw me playing it and talking about it, um, did you think it was a steep learning curve or did you think it was relatively easy to understand the concept and pick up and play?
So I feel like that's two different pieces of a question because the concept of the game is really easy to understand. The subtle ambiguity of how to place yourself when you know a circle is going to close in or to stay outside of the circle and wait for the blue to start moving, things like that was really, really hard to adjust to because you always, like at the first point, I always wanted to go for the win because that's the point of the game, is to be the last one and get that chicken dinner. But you had already started to play this months before I did. And so I was just taking your lead and it was learning about like why you're making decisions. And like, I don't know if you really remember, but like I asked a ton of questions as we were playing when we first started. And that was because like I had no idea why you were making certain decisions.
Yeah, I do remember that. A lot of questions obviously were things like, me saying I see a guy and you saying where. But I
Oh
think
yeah.
that's changed a lot recently because you've gotten a lot better at picking up people from a distance and seeing those little pixels of movement. But besides that, yeah, it's like I would say, okay, we got to move now, and you'd say why,
Yep.
and it's like I didn't really think about saying why. It's sort of like that's what you have to do because I already know what I need to do. Because I've been playing this game in a while, and I know that we have to move a little bit ahead of the blue, but we want to wait a little bit because we want to make sure there's no one behind us. And it's, I think it's definitely a learning curve in that regard. So I would agree with you on
Yeah.
that.
And I think another portion of it is like just the way to be playing the game because you'd be like a level 2 helmet on me, and I'd be like, where are you?
Right.
And
Exactly.
but you already know that like you're looking at the map while you're also planning on where you're going and you know where you are because you had been in the map. And so I'd be like, how do you people know where each other are? So when we placed like squad or whatever, I'd be like, I feel so behind right now because I have no idea what you guys are talking about. Or like somebody would be saying SMG, AR, and things like that, and I didn't know the classifications of all the weapons. And so like people would be like, "Do you have anything?" And I'd be like, "No," and then I would, or they'd be like, "Do you need anything?" And I was like, "I don't know." Like,
Yeah.
what goes on an ump?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
That's another thing that I don't think we talked about before, but just like the weapon classifications. I've known what everything is just from playing shooters all my life. Like I
Yeah,
know an ump is a machine gun. I know M4 is an assault rifle. I know what a sniper rifle is usually a bolt action, and it's it's what it looks like in the world. Like I know what the
yeah.
weapons look like, and that's
Oh
something I
man.
never considered having to teach you. Like I just assumed that you would know that, and that's something
Yep.
that kind of took me by surprise.
And when I was literally watching TV last week, and all of a sudden I started recognizing all the guns,
Yeah,
and I was like, "Oh
right.
my god, this is so weird! I know exactly what that is. Like that guy's got a scar right now. That guy's got an M4 right now." And
Yep.
like I had always known what like an Uzi was and an AK is because those are the most recognizable guns in like the world. But like every bad guy in the '90s had an Uzi.
Exactly. And a stocking cap or stockings on their face or whatever.
Yep.
Uh,
And so like once I started to pick up on those things, I was like, oh, that's really cool that like I'm just starting to identify things that you're learning things as an adult, I guess, is really what it comes down to. Useless things, but you're learning
right.
things.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And so like that was a thing that I had to really adjust to. I remember going like, I do not know what weapon you were talking about. Like, and so when we were playing the one match, D was like, I need SMGs, I need SMGs, and I was like, I mean, if I figure out what an SMG is, I'll give you that. I don't know what that is, but yeah.
And it's also like the different ammo types and knowing what the ammo
Oh my
types look
god,
like and then knowing which gun takes which ammo.
that
Like, yeah,
100% was a thing that you guys, like you specifically, were like, I got some 5.56, or do you have any 5.56? And I was like, I don't know, and I had no idea. But now I'm like, okay, it's green, 9 mils red, like
right.
45 is white and blue, 7.62 is like a yellowy gold. Like I got this.
Yeah. Yeah. There's all those little nuances that I just assumed you would know and you just didn't. And that's no
Yep.
fault of yours. You've never played a game like this, but it's just such a unique perspective.
But think
Like,
about how
I've
much I
never
slowed
thought
us
that would be a
down
thing.
not knowing these things prior to.
Right. Exactly. And
You
there's
know?
no training mode or anything like that. Like, there was no
Oh
way
God,
of you knowing.
if only.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So besides all of those gameplay, like in-game issues or in-game things that you needed to learn, you'd never really played with the keyboard and mouse before.
Nope.
So what were some of the difficulties you had adjusting to that?
Number one, I had no idea to use my middle finger on W.
So that I wanted you to say that because that is the most fascinating thing to me. Like it's just so common, like not knowledge, but it's just common nature for me to like immediately put my fingers that way. I noticed even when I'm sitting at work and typing, like if I take my right hand off of my keyboard to use my mouse, my hand just like instinctively goes to like WASD and that like middle finger on W. Like it's just
Now
so
it does.
natural.
Now it does. So we had played probably for a week before I was like, all right, how are you hitting tab so fast? And you're like, what do you mean? And I was like, how do you move your finger from W to tab? And you're like, I don't. Like, I keep my middle finger on W the whole time, and I tab with my pinky. And I was like, what do you mean you tab with your pinky?
It just blew my mind when you said that. Absolutely blew me away. Like I was like, how could you do it any other way? Like there's no other way to do it. like what were you had your pointer finger on W, right?
I had my pointer finger on W, and I would use my middle finger for my
For
middle
A?
finger for A, and my thumb for D and F.
Oh my god. I'm trying this right now and it's
It's
impossible.
so terrible. And then
Wow.
my pinky would automatically, like, it would rest on shift so I could run. But then if I wanted to hit space, my whole hand would come off the space bar, or come off the keyboard and hit the space bar.
This is definitely the fastest way possible to carpal tunnel. Like
Oh my god, my hand hurts so bad, and I was like, how do gamers do this? Like, how am I gonna live if I can't move my left hand for the rest of my life? And I saw like all my life flash before my eyes, and I thought about like the second ice cream cone that I would never eat if I fought you, or other things that you would do with the second hand while your other hand is occupied. It
Oh
was
man.
terrifying. I'm still getting over it.
Wow.
But it was easily the most difficult thing I have ever had to adjust to when it came to like just menial things. And so like I was like, okay, I'm just gonna change today. And so I said, okay, from now on, WASD, middle finger on W. And like it took a full week before it, but now it's just second nature.
Right.
Like I put my hand on my keyboard, it goes WASD. And I do it that way too, like WASD, WASD, tap tap on space, and then I'm
Right.
good. And now I couldn't do it any other way. I could not go back to try and even do it the way that I had done it before. And it took about a week to just get that muscle memory down. But now I can tab into my inventory like no problem.
Hmm.
Leaning is still a little bit of an adjustment because it just doesn't, I don't use lean that much,
Yeah,
but
I
I'm
don't
trying
either, to be
to.
honest. Yeah.
I'm trying to. The only time I ever find myself actually using lean is behind rocks. And I don't know why, but it's only ever behind rocks.
Hmm. I think if you played more first-person game mode, you might use it a little more, but it's definitely
Yeah,
something I should try to do more often.
when I did do first person, which is only the one time, it, you had made the comment that you do feel safer, and that's true. But they got to figure out how to make that guy not so short because he is short,
Yeah, that's the biggest problem.
and it is a pain in the ass.
Yep, I agree. Like if you'd go into a first-person game mode and walk up to a UAZ, it's like a monster truck. It's
Yeah,
like
it's
your head
huge.
goes up to like the door handle. It doesn't make any sense at all.
It's like they've mounted the camera on the guy's chest
Yeah,
instead of in his eyes. You know,
exactly. Exactly. They need to fix
real
that.
weird. But
Anyway, so yeah, you had trouble with your left hand, WASD stuff. What about aiming with a mouse? Because that's sort of a different adjustment too, because you're looking around and you have to move while you look and sort of strafe and aim at the same time. So what did you think about adjusting to
yeah,
that?
so I have a couple of thoughts on that. One of them is before I had started to play, when I was just watching your podcast and I was asking you questions, which probably helped me a lot jumping into the game, to be honest. I did not know where the anchor point was for the camera when aiming. And so that's kind of hard to explain. But when making games and mechanics in games, they will attach an anchor point to wherever you're going to pull from. And so originally, what I thought was that the anchor point is immediately at the end of your gun. And so you would be moving your character from that point. Instead, it's like back by the chest, which made it a lot easier once I got in. But I had overshot a lot when I was first starting to play. Does that make any sense?
I think it does. Yeah, like I I could be completely wrong on this and someone might call me out. But wasn't GoldenEye sort of like that? Like you sort of like aimed by like moving the gun around? Am I
That's what it
completely
felt
wrong?
like, yes. And that's why I came up with the question is GoldenEye, because you felt like you were moving the gun from or you were moving the character from the tip of the gun and not
Right.
back further.
So now that you've had some time to adapt to the keyboard and mouse, what do you think about going back to a controller? Like, do you think it's superior to a controller, or is it about the same? Does it depend on the type of game? Like, what do you think about like going back to your PlayStation now and using that for a first-person shooter?
I think that it definitely has something to do with the type of game. I would never play Madden or what's the Rocket League on my PC. Like Rocket League, I've played with the mouse and controller. It's just not the same because when you have a controller in your hand and you're driving a car, it gives you more of a level feeling as opposed to using WASD and the mouse to control everything with a vehicle. I, however, probably won't be buying any more PlayStation games when it comes to RPGs or action adventure games, things like that, because it feels more comfortable playing with the mouse and controller. Um, unless it's a PlayStation exclusive, then I'm just gonna buy PC games. I'm pretty sure. It just feels like you have so much more control over everything else going on.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Like the aim with the mouse is just
Uh,
miles above a controller.
it's so intuitive too because you can't really choose to just aim down a sight in a game without hitting a secondary or other button. And
Hmm.
so if I wanted to aim down a sight in any other game, I'd have to pull down another trigger or a bumper and then fire with
Right.
two different hands. Whereas in this game, obviously, you just use one finger and then the other finger that's literally right next to it. So it makes it so
Exactly.
much smoother.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the other thing you brought up Rocket League. The one thing I wanted to mention with the controller, the benefit is having like that incremental movement. I don't know if this makes sense, but like when you press a key on the keyboard, if you press W to move your car forward, it's either on or off, right? But if you
Yep.
press a controller, you can like slowly transition into moving forward and like build up
Yep.
the speed. There's got to be a word for that, and I don't know what that is, but I think that's a big benefit to a controller.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly, especially when it comes to vehicle games.
Yeah.
Games that are racing or whatever they may be, even like planes and things like that. So playing Battlefield 1, for instance, when you're doing the flying, imagine trying to do that without some sort of joystick on a PC. Like WASD in your mouse, good luck.
Right. Exactly.
You don't have the three dimensions of control over the axes. XI.
XI. Definitely XI. So what drew you to PUBG? Like what do you like most about it is actually what I wanted to say. What do you like most about the game?
First of all, the fact that you can play with other people and it's actually beneficial. And so, like, unless you take the game too seriously, you are literally going in with your friends and playing a team-related game that is not so fast-paced like the multiplayer modes on like COD or anything like that. I think that this is a slower-paced and a strategic game, whereas those what are the battle modes in like deathmatch or whatever, they're so fast, and even if you're playing with your friends, there's no strategy to any of that. You're just all going in for kills, you know.
Right.
With this, like you and I get to go in, or Zach go in, and we just, okay, what's our game plan? What are we going for this time? Are we gonna hunt drops? Are we gonna go for the win? Are we gonna play it safe? Are we gonna pick fights? What are we gonna do? And I think that is just, it's really exciting to be able to go in and choose how we're going to play and figure out a game plan and talk to each other and help people out and loot for one another and things like that. So the team play aspect of it is a lot of fun, and it's suspenseful to play that way overall.
Definitely. Yeah, I would agree with that. And just like we already mentioned this during our talk, but every round is different, and it's different because you decided to play it differently. For one, and then also that you got the randomness of the loot, but it's just like the adrenaline is what keeps me coming back for sure.
And even so, in the round that we literally just played, like we went down in not really having a plan, and then we were like, all right, we can actually do this. We're down to 40 people right now. We're fully loaded. Let's follow the circle and see what we see.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas, you know, the last time we played, we were like, we're gonna drop hunt. We're going in.
Yeah.
We're gonna pick fights.
And like you go into a game thinking like you have no plan at all, and then suddenly you're put into a position where you have like all these options, and you're like, okay, well let's make this game into something that we didn't think it was going to be.
Yeah, and I think that the versatility of gameplay in it is the most appealing thing about the game. And I have never played a game that's so exciting when you get to top 10.
Yeah, and that's what this is.
Never.
Yeah.
Your heart is pounding, and you're nervous that you're going to make a mistake, and sometimes you choke, and sometimes you don't choke, you know. When that chicken dinner comes up, you're just like, oh, man.
Exactly. Like you felt like you accomplished something. Like I think that's the other thing is like it's rewarding just to win, and even if you get no like physical reward for it.
Yeah,
like,
you get nothing. You just go
rewarding.
like, that was awesome, guys. That was great.
Right.
It's definitely not as fun to play solo. Like sometimes solo is fun to just go in and like test some stuff out, but like duos and squad is like the way to go through and through, I think, with this game.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think solo is a good way to learn the game and figure out what kind of gameplay style works for you, like whether it's camping or being more aggressive. But as soon as you play in a solo or as soon as you play in a duo match, like the dynamic completely changes, especially going from a solo to a group of 4. You go from playing timid to being like, we're going to kill everyone.
We've got 4 people with us. We got backup everywhere.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think that like solo has its place, but even so, like take like Dr. Disrespect or Shroud or like those guys that play solo a lot because they have a bunch of people that they're interacting with when they're doing it because people are watching them and they're chatting with them.
Right.
And so like even they want to go in, and even though they're playing solo, they still like to communicate with the other people that are watching them. And so that says a lot, I think, about playing duo and squad, is that you get to communicate with everybody. But my answer to like what do you like best about PUBG is the fact that it is a skill-based game, and it challenges me to feel good about spending so much time playing video games. Because when you're playing this thing, like I jumped into it, and like you usually play video games, you're like, oh, I blew that level. Now I got to start over the last checkpoint. I got to do whatever. Like this is like all or nothing. You have to go in and you get better over time.
Right.
And then so going back to my original gameplay, like I was never getting a kill ever. And even just now, like I go in early game, I'm pretty good. I got to work on my late game. I know I can identify things that I need to get better at, and that's half the fun of this entire thing is like learning what your skills are and how to get better at things, and like learning how to work with other people. And the devs seem to understand that people want more realistic weapons. They want different or multi-use attachments, and so like you're constantly adjusting different loadouts to find out what works best for you or what works best in certain situations and things like that. And so like it's a multi-layered piece to something that you can constantly work at and constantly think like, okay, well maybe I'll try um, working on the scar because I don't use it very often, or I can pick up the auto shotty because I never want to pick up the auto shotty. But if you get better at these weapons, you know that in a pinch you can get better.
It's all about being like effective with whatever you're given at the time, because like every match you might go a full night and never get an M4, or like you might go a full nights of games and never get 4x scope. Like there's a lot of randomness, and I think that's a positive and a negative, but for me I see more of a positive out of it because it makes every game different. Like it makes every
Yeah,
time, every match is a different experience, and you just have to work with what you're given.
yeah. And even so, like you drop in early game and you find a pistol and you're like, ah, crap. But then now I've gotten to the point where like the 1911 or something like that, I can pick up and know like, all right, I might be able to get this until I can kill somebody and take their gun or find a new gun.
Right.
Whereas like the revolver, still not there. I still
No.
go like,
I
ah,
don't think anyone can pick up the revolver and use it accurately. I've never seen a clip of anyone getting like sweet kills with a revolver. Like I don't think it exists.
yeah.
So is there anything you wish you knew before starting to play this game?
I think that I'm glad that I did not know a whole lot about this coming in. First of all, because if I'm going to play PC games now, this was the one to start on. It's super hard. I'm still adjusting. I'm still learning. But now I think if I go into a different game, I'm probably going to be a lot better off. I think that having known a whole lot more going in might not have been as exciting, and it might not have hooked me as much to have such a learning curve because I wanted to be challenged by something that I'm going to spend my time doing.
So what do you think is your favorite strategy? Do you like going for the drops? Do you like kind of taking it slow and more relaxed, more timid, or what do you like to do when you are trying to get that chicken dinner?
I think my favorite thing to do is get a nice hot to the touch drop, get in there, get some early game action, survive it, and then strategically place yourself within circles. Um, if you can fit a crate drop in there somewhere, go for it. But I really like being able to drop into a place like Pachinki or Watertown or Georgia Pole or the school or something and get out of there alive and
That's
then
the
go
key.
like, cool, we got some stuff. All right, now let's win this thing. And so like you have a little bit of all things within one game. Sometimes though, I want to go for a win and see how far we can get and just kind of camp, not camp, but like let's get a good place, let's hang out, let's loot. All right, let's wait for the circle. Okay, let's get to a new place, let's loot, let's wait for the circle. Instead of just like going. I don't chase kills a lot because I'm not getting a lot of kills. So like I like to pick fights and I like to do that stuff, but I like to do it safely.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. I like to wait and see what the circle does, that kind of thing. I think I say
The
that
all
probably
omniscient
4 times a game.
circle.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's
Like
wait for
what's
the
it doing?
circle.
What's it gonna do? What's it gonna do?
Yeah, and like
Um,
trying to guess where it's gonna go is part of the fun.
yeah,
So like you could be a dead center, and all of a sudden you're like, it is nowhere near us.
right. Exactly. But if you do get that lucky circle, man, it feels so
Oh,
good when you're
it
camping in
does
that last second or third ring and it's like
every
waiting
time.
for it. And it's
That
right there on top of you. Oof,
south
so
side
good.
of the island, like waiting
Yeah.
up in that little area, and you're on the balcony, and you're like, okay, people could be coming from any side. We got a good range. And you're like, oh, we got the circle.
Yeah. So good. So good. So what's your favorite weapon?
Oh, so favorite weapon as opposed to what I'm best at.
Either one. Either one is an acceptable answer.
um, that Mini 14 is just a beast. I love it so
Ooh.
much. It's
Me
so
too.
nice. I'm really partial to the AK as well and the M4. Um, the AK I think I am best with. The Mini I think I'm getting better at, and the M4 is just most versatile. I think.
Yeah, I would
So
agree with that.
if I have a fully loaded, um, like a silenced quick draw extended, with a like a 2x or a red dot on my AK, I am golden. Like that is my jam. I love it so much. And when it comes to the M4, I like it on single shot. I like a red dot, tac stock, quick draw extended, and a compensator and a vertical grip. And I'm pretty good short range with that, and it's powerful too, which helps.
Right. Yeah. I think the Scar and the M4 are a little bit too similar. I wish there was some way to like differentiate between them, but they feel like the same weapon to me. So
I
I, th-
agree.
I think I'm with you there. I like both the Scar and the M4, and then the Mini 14 is just so beautiful.
The Scar does feel a little less powerful than the M4.
And I don't know why that is, but I think it actually has the same stats, but I don't know for sure.
Maybe it's like the way yeah, maybe it's just like the amount of recoil or something. I don't really know, but
Yeah,
it just
yeah, something like
it
that.
feels a little off.
So, what is your least favorite weapon?
Not counting shotguns.
All of the shotguns. You hate all of the shotguns.
They're not fun to play with. Um, you can get like the bullet loops, you can get the choke and everything, and it's still not that great of a weapon to use. It's not all that fun. I think that the Vector also has a lot more downfalls than it does benefits. It's compact, it's smooth to shoot, but a 13 round clip, if you don't find anything else, is pretty much useless. Because you could, in a quick moment, if you're not super accurate, you could blow that clip and still die right away. Like you have to be pretty set on that because it's not a highly powered weapon.
Right. I think they need to make it spawn more often so I can practice with it. I think like the 13 rounds, like you say, is the biggest drawback. Like you miss your first 5 bullets and like suddenly you have just enough to kill the guy with. It's
Right.
yeah, it's not a gun that's very versatile at all, really.
Yeah.
And it's not good at anything beyond medium range. Like you just can't do anything with it.
You can't do anything at all with it.
Right. Yeah, I've sort of come around. I used to like really be a pro Vector guy, but recently I've found I've had good luck just having like an assault rifle and the Mini, or like just sticking with the sniper and an assault rifle, or even
Yeah.
just SMG and assault rifle.
If I had like a full loadout, like I'm partial to the ump. I'm never going to complain when I get an ump.
Yeah,
And
I think
so
everyone loves the ump. I would agree.
yeah, if I have an ump and it's even halfway loaded, like even if I had like a quick draw on it and a red dot, like I'm gonna stick with it probably
Yeah.
for the whole game, unless I were to find like an M4 and an AK, which is not very likely. Like I'm probably gonna hold on to that ump because it's really good short game. It's pretty good mid range too. Obviously you're not gonna pick people off from crazy distances, but like I got those two guys that like that was
That was pretty
borderline
far. That had
100.
to be 75 to 100, I would say.
Yeah.
It was pretty far.
And so like you can do some stuff with it if you're patient.
Right.
Close game, that ump's gonna help you every single time. So it's just a good gun to hold on to. But then if I get like an AK or just a full automatic rifle, like I'm down. I'm down for the whole game. And I almost never use my pistol. Sometimes I drop my pistol completely.
Yeah, I do the same. They're just
If I have
not
that.
useful at the
No,
end. After you
they're
have
good in a
two-sided.
pinch when you first drop, and then you're done.
Yeah.
And you're never gonna run out of ammo late game. So
Right, exactly. So I guess that ruins my next question, which was SMG or shotgun as your secondary.
yeah, never shotgun.
Never shotgun.
Never. I will always drop a shotgun.
So what is something you hate about the game or wish that you could change about it?
See, it's a tough one because even with the bugs, some of those bugs, like I don't hate them so much that I would just be like, get out of here. I understand the game's in development. I understand it's never going to be perfect, but if they keep working on it, like some of these things are probably solid. I think most of all has nothing to do with the actual gameplay, but more so not being able to analyze your death after you're done. So you still do not know how to find out who it was unless they ran up to your crate from the direction that they shot you in. And I think that's the most bothersome because I would like to know how I died as I died. So like they have a little ticker at the bottom, but I'd like a quick replay of the like that shot or where they were or how they took it or something.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. They have said that they're going to add a kill cam for solo mode.
That's cool.
So you'll be able to see where you got hit from. But in like duo or squad, it would be just unfair because you would just call out to your squad where you got shot from. So
yeah. Or what would be a really good idea is if at the end of game they had like here's the 4 kill cam. That's how you all 4 of you
yes.
died.
Yep. They will have that too. Yeah, they'll have instant replays and like the 3D and 2D
That's
replays, so
awesome.
you can see how close you were to people or what they did. So many times I've been in a map and or I've been in a match and have someone run by me and then they just disappear into the night. It's like they
Yep.
just like no clipped through the map or something. So I would love to see how close we came to actually meeting up with people, or those little things you do, like, oh, let's go down the hill instead of up the
Yeah.
hill. And maybe we would have won if we went up, but instead we took, the path where no one else was.
God, that would make the game so much more interesting if you're like, God damn it, if we had just gone over the hill.
I'm looking forward to that. I think it's kind of come out when they finally release at the end of this year, but I don't know for sure.
And so, like, I'm hoping that when they release it, they're just going to keep working on stuff and keep
Yeah.
introducing new things and, like, different game modes and stuff like that. Like, I just want it to, I mean, as you keep saying it, like, I want the
Yeah.
game to have some legs. Like, keep doing stuff, keep building on this. This is a platform that could do so much. And they can, as long as they do things for the right reasons,
So after all this, what keeps you coming back? Like, what is it about the game that's got you hooked?
I'm just so excited every single time I drop into a match. Like, you don't know what's going to happen next. You still have to get better every single day. And, like, even the best players do not win all the time. You can get all the kills you want, but you could get 10 kills and still die top 50. And so, like, knowing that, like, just because I kind of suck right now does not mean that anybody, like, I could kill anybody at any time, and it's just the luck of the draw that day. Like, you can make the wrong turn and go to top 10, or you can make the wrong turn and die first. That's the best part of this whole thing.
So much of this game is just split decisions, like split-second decisions, and sometimes you win, and sometimes, very more often than not, you choke. But
Yep.
That's what the joy is. That's what the fun is.
So good.
Yep. Just keep grinding. Thanks for taking the time to sit down. That was awesome. Good talk. Good talk.
Absolutely, man. I've been waiting for this for a long time.
Awesome. All right, let's go play.
Let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
See what I did there?
Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed a newcomer's take on PUBG. Keep it locked for episode 14, and we'll be back with more news and analysis. Until then, I'll see you in game.